Okay, so she's upset
Sorry,
because it's
guys.
hard to be so famous. And she's upset because it was very expensive to live in the White House. They had to pay for their own food. Who has to pay for their own food? What kind of world is this? And just as soon as you start working up your sympathy glands for Michelle Obama, you see her just recently out on Steven Spielberg's yacht, cruising around the Mediterranean, while she literally wants you to feel.
It starts with a whisper that could shake the legacy of America's most celebrated couple. For years, we've been told Barack and Michelle Obama represent integrity, unity, and hope. But now, insiders are asking whether that image was carefully staged. A polished act built on political calculation, not conviction. The revelation comes not from a tabloid leak or an angry former staffer, but from Barack himself. When he stepped onto a 2024 campaign stage and scolded black men for not supporting Kamala Harris, calling it a matter of racial loyalty, he might have revealed more than he intended. Because just weeks later, he quietly endorsed Abigail Spanberger, a white Democrat, over Winsome Earl Sears, a black Republican woman running for governor in Virginia. The contradiction was impossible to ignore. The same man who preached solidarity along racial lines suddenly chose the opposite side when party power was at stake.
Now, personally for me, if I were able to run for a third term, Michelle would divorce me. So, so it's useful that I don't have that choice to make.
We can see how that moment hit like a crack in the facade. The press framed it as strategic, but political insiders called it betrayal. How could the nation's first black president urge black voters to stand behind Harris because she knows your struggles, then turn around and throw his influence behind a white candidate running against a woman who literally shared those same roots? Commentators on social platforms replayed his Virginia statement. "I am proud to endorse Abigail Spanberger for governor," side by side with his earlier speech about racial duty. The effect was damning. It didn't sound like leadership, it sounded like manipulation. By late summer, even longtime supporters began to question whether Obama's talk of representation had ever been genuine, or if it was just a lever to keep the Democratic establishment intact. Behind closed doors, political aides described a more calculated Barack, one obsessed with control, working phones, arranging endorsements, and managing every headline involving Kamala Harris. Sources familiar with his team said the strategy was simple: make her success look like his redemption. If she won, it would cement his influence over the party. If she faltered, he could claim he tried to help. Either way, the narrative stayed his. But what began as tactical politics is now feeding a deeper unease. Commentators point out that the Obamas have always been protective of their brand, yet that brand now faces the one thing it was never built to withstand: scrutiny.
Hard to look at that and go,
no, it is not.
No?
Yeah, no, it's not. I mean, the thing about what I learned in those 8 years is that home is where we make it, and we were in the White House for 8 years, but it wasn't the house, it was us in it. It was
Right.
our values and our love for each other, and
Yep.
we just moved that to another house. So
Then there's Michelle. While Barack tours political battlegrounds, Michelle's absences are drawing their own kind of attention. When Barack attended Jimmy Carter's funeral alone, whispers began. When she skipped Donald Trump's inauguration, another event he attended solo, the pattern was too obvious to dismiss. Some journalists called it scheduling. Others saw it as a message. The speculation took on a life of its own when, not long after, Barack posted that carefully lit birthday photo. The couple, seated across a dinner table, hands touching in the middle, smiles frozen. His caption read, "Happy birthday to the love of my life." It should have been unremarkable, yet the photo looked more like public relations than affection. Even sympathetic outlets noted the awkward composition and flat tone. Was this love or damage control? That single image sparked a new wave of rumors about the marriage. Pundits from Puck Media to talk radio programs cited Washington insiders, claiming the two now lead separate lives. Others argued Michelle's decision to remain away from major state functions wasn't about politics at all. It was about exhaustion or resentment. In the months that followed, the release of her new project, The Look, only made things stranger. For a woman who has spent years lamenting fame's intrusion, Michelle seemed remarkably eager to step back into the spotlight. The coffee table book, priced at a premium and filled with glossy photographs of her clothing, was billed as a celebration of confidence and authenticity. Yet, in her own promotion video, she spoke again of victimhood, of how society judged her appearance, of the pressure of beauty standards, of the pain of scrutiny. Critics like Megyn Kelly and the panel from Ruthless sentenced on that contradiction. Kelly reminded her audience that just 10 days earlier, Michelle said she hated how famous she is, and now she's launching a fashion book? The irony wrote itself.
This is something else going on. That is a good problem to have. To be very rich and very famous does not solve all of your issues, but it is generally quite a good thing to be. I mean, I remember when I was much younger hearing a movie star, I forget who it was, complain that people would come up to him at dinner and ask for autographs or whatever. And my view was, look, that's kind of what goes along with all of the money and fame and adoration that...
We can trace this duality across Michelle's entire post-White House career. She tells audiences she wants privacy, then films an unboxing video for millions of followers. She says she was weary of being judged by what she wore, then publishes 200 photographs devoted entirely to how she looked. Even her captions seem engineered, full of the language of social activism, diversity, inclusion, representation, phrases critics say have become shields against accountability. Political analysts see the rollout of the look not as vanity, but as brand preservation. When Michelle speaks of identity, it sells. And when she complains about being seen, that sells even more. Every grievance becomes content. Every confession becomes currency.
I have something super fun for you to discuss now, and
Okay.
I'm sad for Rich that he won't get to weigh in on it, but you're going to be really honored. Michelle Obama, as you know, has got a podcast, and she's putting it to good use. I mean, she's really working through a lot of her feelings about the United States, about her husband, about her children. P.S. The answer on all three of those is she can't stand them. She hated motherhood, she can't stand her marriage, and she's not too keen on the United States.
Meanwhile, conservative commentators have found new fuel. On her Sirius XM show, Kelly mocked Michelle's podcast confession that there were 10 years where I couldn't stand my husband. Paired with her absence from key events, that admission reignited talk of marital strain. Kelly's guest, Maureen Callahan, went further, claiming Michelle doesn't even speak of Barack positively anymore. Whether or not that's fair, the pattern is visible. Their public appearances grow fewer, their statements more curated, their affection more performative. The higher the scrutiny climbs, the more the couple seems to retreat into scripted gestures. For followers who once believed in the authenticity of their love story, the change feels like betrayal. It's impossible to separate this personal drama from the political one. Barack's endorsement choices and Michelle's media ventures mirror each other, two halves of the same strategy. One manipulates moral language for influence, the other turns private grievance into marketable empowerment. Together they maintain relevance, even as their sincerity comes under question. When Michelle tells audiences that every day in the White House felt like walking on glass, while Barack privately maneuvers to control the next generation of Democratic leadership, the image of partnership begins to fracture. Sources close to their circle describe growing distance, both emotional and geographic. They spend long stretches apart, with Michelle focused on creative projects in Los Angeles, and Barack still orbiting Washington power networks.
More fuel on the fire that there's a potential, maybe a divorce or some sort of rockiness going on in the Obamas' relationship. They both posted these mirrored, very choreographed Valentine's Day messages on X.
Still, the public facade holds, for now. Each birthday post, each televised laugh, each coordinated appearance is meant to signal stability. Yet observers notice the timing. These gestures always surface right after another rumor takes flight. When speculation linked Barack to Hollywood acquaintances, the couple's social media feeds lit up with synchronized affection. When Michelle faced criticism for the look, Barack appeared beside her at a book signing, cameras ready. It all feels rehearsed, as though the couple understands their image is too valuable to leave unguarded. Behind the smiles, insiders describe a different tone, tense conversations about legacy, control, and how to manage the press without showing cracks.
And that's the thing is, so the Bidens and the Obamas hate each other because Michelle Obama is very good friends with Hunter Biden's ex-wife. So that's led to a significant problem where they don't like Hunter, and if you don't like Hunter, Joe doesn't like you. So I would not be surprised if Holmes is right on with this of like, oh, well, why don't we do this?
It's like, oh man, you give us problems, maybe you can have a problem.
And that brings us back to where this unraveling began, with the illusion of authenticity. Barack once promised transparency and change. Michelle promised honesty and grace. But every new headline, from the campaign trail to the coffee table rollout, suggests something else entirely. A partnership maintained not by affection, but by necessity. He shapes narratives about race to hold political ground. She shapes narratives about struggle to sustain cultural capital. Both thrive on the appearance of moral authority. Yet, as their contradictions pile up, the racial double standard in his endorsements, the fame versus privacy dance in her brand. The question grows louder. How long can an image built on virtue survive when the evidence points toward ambition? And what happens when the public finally stops believing the story they've been told? Traffic.
He actually wants us to feel sorry for him. Like this multi-millionaire with this megaphone on broadcast television despite his terrible ratings. By the way, I speak of both of them in that commentary. Out there like we're the real victims. Meanwhile, he's a bully. He uses that platform to demonize a group of people, just MAGA, right? Which includes millions of working class.
Now, what looked like contradiction before starts to resemble design, a system of influence, power, and profit built carefully over years. We can trace the Obamas' rise from public service to a sprawling financial empire, multi-million-dollar speaking fees, best-selling memoirs with seven-figure advances, and a Netflix production deal said to be worth tens of millions of dollars. To the public, it looks like triumph. But when we examine the timing and structure, it feels less like legacy and more like monetization. Each partnership, each brand collaboration seems to follow controversy, not precede it. Every time their reputation dips, a new project appears, polished, optimistic, and perfectly engineered to remind us of the story they want told.
Let's talk about Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama I know you're all watching her podcast. You're the ones. Michelle Obama wants you to feel very sorry for her because it's very hard being Michelle Obama. Everybody wants a piece of Michelle. It's very hard to be so famous. Michael, Big Mike, that's what they're saying.
Their production company, Higher Ground, was supposed to nurture underrepresented voices. Yet industry insiders quietly note how most of its projects somehow circle back to the Obamas themselves. A documentary about leadership, a film about American renewal, each one a soft echo of the campaign slogans that made Barack famous. We can't ignore that Michelle's books and podcasts fit the same pattern. Confessional tone, moral framing, massive profits. The more personal they sound, the more corporate the results become. Behind the branding of empathy lies a calculated cycle of content and commerce, where sincerity sells and influence never fades. But that influence may be cracking. The whispers of a crumbling marriage have grown too loud to dismiss. On her podcast, Megyn McCain said she had heard from very serious journalists that the Obamas live separate lives. The line was brief, but it detonated across social feeds. The speculation now spans from DC to Hollywood, fueled by their long absences from public events together. Michelle's decision to skip both Jimmy Carter's funeral and Donald Trump's inauguration still sits uneasily with observers, especially when paired with those carefully staged couple photos afterward. Each appearance meant to reassure, instead felt like a statement under pressure.
No one held a gun to her head and made her run for the White House and become First Lady twice. Though you wouldn't know that to hear her talk. And on top of that, like Laura Bush, she kind of went off into the sunset and never bothered anybody again. Barbara Bush certainly did that. Hillary Clinton didn't.
What if Michelle Obama's bitterness isn't just personal? What if it's the foundation of the Obama brand? We can see how her relationship with fame has always been tinged with resentment, as though visibility itself were a punishment she never asked for. From her early interviews about feeling watched in every room, to her 2024 podcast remarks about being exhausted by recognition, Michelle has built a public identity rooted in reluctant celebrity. Yet her every move contradicts that image. Each project, her speaking tours, Netflix appearances, even her podcast with her brother, pulls her deeper into the spotlight she claims to loathe. It's as though disliking fame has become her marketing hook, the way she keeps moral distance from the power she benefits from. The release of The Look made this contradiction impossible to ignore. On one platform, she mourned how her fashion was dissected during her years in the White House. On another, she unveiled a glossy coffee table book devoted to those very outfits. The shift was striking and not lost on commentators. Megyn Kelly's critique that this isn't a book about fashion, it's about control, captured what many were already thinking. Michelle doesn't just want to be admired. She wants to curate admiration on her terms. Her imagery, diversity slogans beside luxury photography, turned empowerment into branding. The result wasn't the vulnerability of a woman tired of scrutiny, but the precision of a strategist shaping a global persona. Michelle's contradictions aren't just personal, they're political. Her brand of selective vulnerability sustains the larger Obama mythology, the couple who both transcend fame and thrive on it, who claim humility while commanding empires of influence. If Michelle can't decide whether to reject or embrace the gaze of the public, what does that say about the authenticity of the image she and Barack project together? Her ambivalence mirrors his moral doublespeak on race, a private pragmatism disguised as public virtue. And if their marriage is as strained as insiders suggest, we're left wondering whether the performances they give, his sermons about unity, her confessions of fatigue, are simply two halves of the same act.
The rocks. The question now isn't if, but when. If I had to guess, they will wait until after the inauguration to announce it. Timing, is everything. And yet the story doesn't end there. For months, I've heard Jennifer Aniston's name tied to Barack. At first, it seemed ridiculous, but the rumors have remained steady among New York.
Then came the Jennifer Aniston rumors. Wild, yes, but oddly persistent. The gossip began with a tabloid headline and spiraled when talk radio hosts suggested that Barack had gone Hollywood after forming ties in the entertainment industry. Aniston herself denied everything on late-night television, even laughing as she said, "I've met him once," but the rumor refuses to vanish because it fits too neatly into the story. Unfolding, a marriage in crisis, a brand at risk, and a public increasingly skeptical of curated perfection. The question no longer seems to be whether any of it happened, it's why such stories keep appearing at all. Each rumor, each leaked comment chips away at the myth of unity the Obamas built. The same man who lectures black voters about moral duty now faces allegations of moral fatigue in his own life. We watch Barack present himself as the conscience of modern politics, even as his private decisions appear guided by expedience. When he tells black men they must vote for Kamala Harris because she understands you, and then endorses a white candidate over a black woman days later, the inconsistency begins to look deliberate. It's as if race has become another marketing tool, useful when it sells, discardable when it doesn't.
Don't do that. I mean, look, they all have their smartphones, and they're texting with their friends. They're doing all the stuff that teenagers are doing.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Michelle and I try to emphasize to them that they don't want to be on TMZ.
Yeah, right.
We've learned that manipulation rarely looks like deceit. It looks like inspiration repurposed. Barack's rhetoric about hope and progress once moved crowds to tears. Now, that same tone resurfaces in polished streaming specials, profitable speaking tours, and corporate partnerships that promise diversity while preserving control. Insiders say he maintains an informal network of protégés and consultants who track how his image performs online, adjusting future appearances accordingly. It's not politics anymore. It's brand management disguised as moral leadership. And Michelle's public lamentations about fame only make the strategy more glaring. Every time she complains about scrutiny, she amplifies engagement. Every tear-filled anecdote sells another copy. Meanwhile, commentators note that Michelle's book tour and Barack's campaign work now operate on separate tracks. They rarely share stages. Associates insist that this is logistical, but the optics suggest distance. For a couple that once built an empire on togetherness, separation feels symbolic. Political strategists point out that Barack's endorsements now carry less weight among younger voters, particularly those who sense the contradiction between his words and his actions. The man who once embodied authenticity now appears to represent the machinery of managed perception.
But we're doing great. The girls are good. Barack is working. We've got projects going. So we're staying busy and traveling. We've had some fun.
Are you still working on a lot?
Yeah,
I'm not going to challenge you to anything.
Yeah, no. I'm not dressed for a challenge.
I'm not either.
It all circles back to the core contradiction, the one that started this unraveling. Barack Obama, the figure who once stood as proof of racial progress, now seems to wield race as leverage. His message to black voters during Kamala Harris's campaign wasn't empowerment, it was obligation. Support her because she's one of you. Yet when faced with a black Republican who challenged his party's line, his allegiance evaporated. That shed double standard exposes the truth many suspected. Identity politics is not about identity at all. It's about control. Barack learned long ago that the language of race grants moral immunity, and he has used it masterfully to sustain influence even as his credibility fades. And through it all, Michelle remains both shield and spotlight. Her confessions of struggle humanize him when he appears detached. His endorsements protect her projects when critics circle. Together, they've built something larger than a marriage, a dynasty of managed emotion. But the higher the pedestal, the sharper the fall. The same public that once adored them is now beginning to notice the seams, the perfectly timed posts, the orchestrated interviews, the contradictions between their words and their world. What began as the American dream couple has turned into a brand, lucrative, efficient, and increasingly transparent. We can't say where this story ends, because maybe it never truly will. The Obamas sold America a vision of unity, progress, and authenticity. But what if the real story is this? Barack's moral sermons were a distraction, Michelle's self-reflection a performance, and the voters they claimed to uplift were the audience in a production built for power. Could the couple who once symbolized change now represent something else entirely? Let us know what you think, because the truth behind the Obamas might just be the greatest untold story of our time. Until next time, stay curious, stay sharp, and keep watching.